So a certain time of year that every pediatric or family practice resident can send chills down their spine if you trained prior to 2006 is March and April. March and April is when the rotavirus would be peaked in the United States. Rotavirus was a virus that caused significant vomiting and diarrhea in children. It was extremely rampant during that month. That was one of its peaks, was in March and April. And every March and April, residents, medical students, attendings across the country would get ready to have massive amounts of pediatric admissions because these kids got exceptionally dehydrated, like dehydrated to the point where there was no fluid left in their body. They would be there for days trying to get them hydrated, and you couldn't introduce food back into them because their gut was so shocked and sensitive that even when they started to improve, as soon as you would start to give them food or liquids, they would get sicker again, and you would have to completely not let them have anything to eat or drink, just IV fluids. And these were babies that were improving. They were hungry, they were thirsty, and we had to deny them food and water because every time we gave them something, they had more diarrhea. It was one of the most traumatic times of my residency because you knew when you got there that morning for your call day that you would not sit down until the next day. And we had 32-hour shifts back then. You would just keep going, keep going, keep going. You'd keep doing the same orders over and over and over again. IV fluids, what are the electrolytes? Try to challenge them. See if you can turn the IV fluids down. It was exhausting. And one night that we had in particular is something that I will never forget. And I think about this often when parents ask me about what's the big deal with rotavirus. Well, we had a little girl who was admitted to the floor. She had cystic fibrosis and she had a severe case of rotavirus, but she seemed like she could go to the regular pediatric floor. She was seen in the emergency room. Her labs were abnormal, but they didn't seem that severe. She seemed to be handling it okay. So she got admitted to the regular pediatric floor. And when you're on the regular pediatric floor, we would write orders for you, and there might be a few hours before we would get back to you. The nurses would have everything going. We'd go reassess you, see how you were doing. Whereas in the ICU, you're kind of getting assessed every hour. So we get back up there a few hours later, and one of my fellow residents walked into the room, and the child was in severe distress, was completely gray, looked mottled, looked absolutely horrible, called something called a rapid response. Everyone came, the ICU came, they did every single thing they could do, and that child died. And they died of rotavirus. Now, yes, they had a pre-existing condition of cystic fibrosis, but this happened to kids without pre-existing conditions, and especially to kids with pre-existing conditions every single day in the United States. March and April were months that live in infamy for people that trained before 2006. Newer residents don't know what we're talking about because babies almost never get rotavirus anymore because a vaccine came out in 2006. I have not admitted a child to the hospital for a stomach virus in over 10 years. It was the main cause of admission to the hospital from vomiting and diarrhea in the United States, and it is almost non-existent. So this is another story that I hope we as medical providers, parents, patients yourselves, flood the internet with stories about vaccine preventable illnesses and how awful they can really be. Our voice has to be louder than those who are telling parents and families something different, because as Dr. Paul Offit, which is one of the grandfathers of vaccinations in the United States, recently said, if we don't do the educating, the viruses and the bacteria will. Take care.